us an update on where guys are.
Oh.
Health-wise, you got a lot
Give
going
a
on
slew.
right now. Yeah.
Give a slew. Yeah, it's. I mean, not everyone's never healthy at the same time, right? And I wish we already had. We haven't had our meeting yet. When you talk about Reese, you talk about Addie coming back. You talk about Cade, who I think's getting close, from what I've heard. I got to hear it, in the meeting today, but I know he lifted and everything went well, which is good. Met with Sully. He had imaging, So we're waiting to hear someone that's smart enough to know what all that means is going to tell us. So there's a whole lot of I don't knows right now, which is not great answers, but it's where we're at this point of the season. But it'll be interesting to see. And then there's a guy like Jackson who played a little bit, and he needs a ton of reps. So it'll be interesting on the practice field tomorrow because we have no clue. I don't know who's going to be out there. I'm hoping by the end of the day I do, or at least tomorrow morning, so we can just continue because each guy, especially the quarterback position, each guy's different, right? And they each need to work on different things. And so Jackson just needs reps. He's been a scout team guy running cards, and he's getting back to playing and running the offense we ran in the spring or in the fall when he got some of our reps of running what we do. And so I'm excited to give him a ton of reps in the bye week. This is a unique time to have a bye week for him. And the other two, I just got to get healthy, so they can be on the field and help us win.
But if they're both healthy Monday, let's say, do you know what you would do?
Oh no, I would let them compete. It'd be a great week. It'd be like a real live. You guys have both done a lot of great things, and you affect our offense differently. Let's see who's playing well. It'd be a great battle. I wish that was the case, but rarely is that the case. Camp's like the one time that you can have a real live competition. But I don't think that's going to be the case. Is my guess. That's not going to be the case this week.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Tim, with all due respect to the final two games that you have, the transfer portal opens in 3 weeks or so.
Yeah.
How much of a priority is the transfer portal going to be? How do you kind of balance that time preparing for the bowl game and the transfer portal? And is quarterback going to be a position that you potentially look at in the portal? And if so, how serious are you going to kind of dive into that?
Yeah, I think every position in this state of college football, right? I think every position every year you have to look, right? And that doesn't start. How many days did you say?
December 9th.
So how many days that is. So it's coming. We're definitely gonna look into it. We gotta look at each position, and there's roster limits now, so there's a lot of moving parts. And I know Tyler and Coach have been working hard on that. I'm excited to have a meeting later this week to learn a little bit about all the work they've been doing for the past 6 weeks, just to kind of see where they think the holes are, and we'll have a great discussion and figure out. But I think you have to look at every position on both sides of the ball every year, right? It's just it's a new way of college football. So it will not take away from the last 2 weeks. I mean, we got two more weeks to play to get better and continue to teach, and we are still in the beginning stages of installing the offense, and we called the play last week. It was the first time I've had it in the game plan. We just finally called it, and Sully ripped it, and Gil caught it at the one, and it was fun to finally be able to run it in a game, and we run it in practice a ton of times. We've got to the point where I think we've pretty much repped everything in practice, but to be able to go out there and execute in a game was great to finally get that play off the ground. I didn't think I didn't think Jackson would be the first one to throw it, but he was, and he ripped it, and it was a little bit behind. It was in front, and we would have walked in the end zone, but that's a play that I'd like to continue to grow. But yeah, so we're going to really focus on that the next 2 weeks, but we're definitely going to meet this is the week to meet and talk and figure out what the plan is, and once it opens up, we're gonna have to be active in it, I think.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Tim, Jackson shared a little bit about how you found him story. Can you go into more detail on that? Did you know about him when you went to the showcase thing, or?
No. The story is simple. It was, the spring portal opened, and I got on it and walked. There's not a lot of people on it. I heard about how great it was, right? And that was December 1. So I was all excited for it to open up, and it opened up, and there weren't a lot of names on it. And so very, very limited amount of people that I was interested in that had actually had playing time, and I'll never forget, it was actually Coach Budmeyer, and I was kind of down in the dumps, and he's like, hey, you've developed quarterbacks your whole life. He's like, why don't you watch all those guys that are on it, their high school film, and maybe develop one. You know, like, so I never thought about doing it that way because you want a guy with experience like Sully, and we got Sully. But I mean, who knows if we're gonna? Sully had a lot of options, right?
Yeah.
So I literally watched every guy in the portal that had never played, you know, because it has how many reps they've had in college, and I loved his film. You know, if he was in high school, which he's not, but if he was in high school, I would have recruited him, you know, off that high school film. And so went down there to, you know, see him throw and see it live, and just really got to know his coach and started the recruiting process. And lucky enough, you know, we did get, you know, Brendan, you know, which changed things a little bit with Jackson, but you know, we kind of hit it off, and we were lucky enough to have him come, and he ended up playing, you know, in his home state, UCLA. You know, it was a very unique story.
John Sethi with Kasaj. With obviously part of Brendan's game is his mobility,
Yeah.
his running. Do you try to hold that back at all, or at least try to get him to slide when your quarterback depth is as precarious as it has been?
Yeah, you try to keep him on the edges. You know, a lot of times on the edges you can protect yourself better. My biggest concern with any quarterback that's playing is that you go through your progressions. I do not want to make it back at football, drop back and run around, you know. And so we had him in designed runs maybe 3 times in the game. You know, I think he had 9 carries or 6 times that I didn't want him running, taking unnecessary hits, and things like this can happen when you're not progressing, or you rely on your athletic ability instead of your being a quarterback first. And the running part is a great added bonus. It's icing on the cake. But first things first, right? And that's something we've always been working with. And he has the ability to progress. He has the ability to throw the ball. But guys that have the ability to run sometimes, you know, leave the pocket too early, you know? And it's something that definitely happened. It caused turnovers. You can't turn the ball over and win games, and that's what we did. And he learned from it. You know, we had a great meeting yesterday. I met with him again last night. And so hopefully this is a great moment for him to see it, learn from it. And even on the one that he got, you know, hurt on, I mean, the guy's what he should have been. I mean, the guy's open, and he's stressing out and feeling pressure that wasn't there, and he ended up getting out and didn't see the guy that hit him on the side, which is unfortunate. But you know, when you watch yourself and you know what you're supposed to do and you don't do it, and then it ends up you take a hit, an unnecessary hit, it really hits home. You know, so I'm excited about his growth from this point on, because like I explained it to him, like, you know, those of us that have kids, it's like they want to touch the stove and you slap their hands, say, don't touch the stove, it's hot. And then what do? They reach again and you're like, hey, don't touch the stove, it's hot. You know, and eventually they need to burn themselves. And when they do, you're like, then they're not going to touch the stove ever again, right? And so, you know, I kind of told that analogy in my quarterback room, like, you have to live it. You know, my freshman year, I played 4 years. We started off 0-9. I got hit too much, I held the ball I did everything wrong. You know, and then I remember our 10th game, we won in like triple overtime. And our 11th game, we won 72-7. And then we were on. Like, we had to learn, you know, and we did a lot of learning. And my body somehow made it through that year and played the next 3 years and had a lot of fun playing. But so it was a terrible thing that happened, turn the ball over like that, but you got to learn. And so I'm excited for his growth from this point forward.
Scott Dockman with The Athletic.
Hey, Scott.
I was interested in seeing what are the kind of the tangible traits that you're looking for when you evaluate quarterbacks, and what are the intangibles that you feel are not only prerequisites but are mandatory in order to be successful in your system?
I think the biggest thing is that you got to be a natural thrower. I mean, that's where people, I think, miss the boat a lot. You know, you look at, you know, Jackson is a natural thrower. I mean, the ball comes out with unbelievable tempo and spin rate. And so I think that's the biggest thing is that's first and foremost. And people sometimes, you know, they'll cut corners on that one to try to get a guy that can run, or, you know. Second thing is footwork. You know, I'm a big believer in footwork. It's really hard on a high school film to figure out who can think. You don't know what they're being taught, you know. But you'd be amazed when you watch a guy throw the ball on time on film. I know the timing of a hitch. I know the timing of a dig. I know the timing of a curl. So when I see him throw a curl, is it 3 and a hitch? You know, I see him throw a slant, is it a left-right ball? And so you can start slowly figuring out if he can make a decision, right? And so I put a premium on their high school, you know, although I don't know what they're being taught. Like, I put a premium on their ability to throw the ball on time. Because if they are, it tells me 2 things. 1, they have pretty good feet. And 2, they're making the decision to anticipate the throw, right? I remember recruiting, Kirk Cousins or Scott Told, the best feet I've ever seen. Ball's out on time every time. Kirk's still doing it. I mean, it's unbelievable. Second hitches to the back every single time. It's an impressive thing. And it doesn't mean they're necessarily processing information really fast, but I haven't met many people that have great feet and great timing that aren't processing information really fast. So I think that's where some quarterback recruiting gets, people miss, and then the icing on the cake is their mobility. Can they be a phase 2 quarterback? I explain it in 3 phases. Phase 1 meaning you throw the ball on time. Phase 2 meaning do you have the ability to work a pocket and buy time? Guys like Peyton Manning, Kirk Cousins. I mean, there's tons of them that can slide, step up, and buy themselves extra time in the pocket. Roethlisberger, you can go on and on about great phase 2 quarterbacks. And phase 3 is when it breaks down and you got to go. And you can ask Sully. You ask him. He was a phase 1, phase 3 last week. He was 1, and he kind of bypassed 2. And if he would have stayed in 2, he could have thrown a lot of balls. And he said it to me right after. You watch the film and you can see it. So, so those are really important phases. And can they do all 3 things? And so, and we have drills because some of these things can be improved upon, right? If the more you do it, we have unbelievable amount of progression drills. I learned from Tom Clements up in Green Bay. He had a bunch of great progression drills, and the more you do it, the better you are. And then you add a moving pocket along with a progression drill. And we got a long way to go. The fun is in the work, but they're starting to see the things that we're doing in practice happen in the game. And sometimes it's really good because they do what they're supposed to do and rip it and it works, and sometimes they don't. And then they look back and said, if I would have done what that drill, it would have worked, So we're learning, we're teaching. We're late in the season, but we're still building, which is the fun part with our group right now, is that we're still seeing improvements, and we're changing the main piece a lot, which is interesting, but the improvement, is they're starting to see it and see the success that it can have, and see some of the negatives that can happen if we don't do it, and that just increases buy-in, for the future, and something to build on in the next 2 weeks to hopefully continue to grow.
4 more lined up for coach. We'll start with Elliot.
Hey Tim, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. About Jackson, you mentioned watching his high school film, and then of course we all saw him play this last weekend. Yeah. But I guess what has left you encouraged by what you've seen from him, and I guess how confident will you be in him being QB1 after 2 weeks, assuming maybe Cade and Brennan are ready to go back?
Oh, how confident? I've stood up here and told you that there's no replacement for reps, right? And he hasn't gotten one. So would I be confident? No, I'd be encouraged because I know the human being and I know how he's worked at it. He did a pretty decent job progressing. Now, it was a panicked progression. His feet, there was panic. I always tell guys, if I want to know what's going on in your brain, all I got to do is look at your feet. And if your feet are panicked, you're panicked. And if you're nice and calm, then I know how you're processing information. So he was definitely panicked, but he was progressing at a panicked pace, and he stepped with the wrong foot on the one he hit Gill on, but he made up for it with a quick hitch, so we're still trying to get him to the fork. This whole offense works on this certain footwork, and he's working on it, and when he steps with the right foot and gets into rhythm, it helps him a lot because he has a natural ability. He can throw it. It is an impressive thing to watch. So, and the fun thing for him is footwork is something you can train, right? He just needs time. He got here 3 months ago, or he got here like a week before we started camp or something like that. So he has not had much time to work at this thing. So I'm encouraged about, his biggest ailment is just reps, which we can give him, especially this week. 2 is going to be working on his feet, which is really one of the easier things to work on at the quarterback position. And it'll be fun to kind of see how far he can take it. I didn't want to throw him into that situation, but I thought he handled himself fairly well. And he's just mad he missed the last throw. I gave him his hinge. He throws that route, and his favorite route. So on that 3rd down, I called that one, and he hesitated a little bit, and then he threw it inside, and he had it. And that's the first thing he said to me after the game. You took us down there and tied the game. That was impressive for a first-time walk-on quarterback to do. And Sully was encouraging him about how he played. He was so hung up on that last ball on 3rd, was it 9 or something like that, which is also encouraging, because he has high expectations and he wants it. So I'm encouraged by that, and we just need time in drilling. We might not have time in drilling, but we're gonna put our best foot forward.
Mitch Fitt, KGA, I just wondered if you could reflect on the last 2 years of your coaching career in life, and the decision that was made by a new AD in Kalamazoo to release you from your alma mater to go into Green Bay to come in here, which is another family alma mater. Just what have you learned about yourself as a coach with it, as a human through all of it?
Yeah, it's been wild, to be honest with you. I mean, people don't understand, like, when you get to be the head coach of your alma mater, you think, you never want to leave. You have opportunities to leave and you don't plan on it, and then you don't have a choice. You have to, right? And so that was dark. Those are dark days. Having a chance to go with Matt in Green Bay was refreshing. To coach in the NFL, to kind of reintroduce myself to this system, which has always been my favorite system. I ran it for years early on in my career, and which was really unique. To get back. And the one thing that I've learned about coaching, at least at the MAC, or really maybe, I don't know how many places are like this, but you do a lot, you wear a lot of hats, so you get further and further away from football, right? Which is what I love to do. Like sitting in a room with the quarterbacks, talking ball, trying to teach is why we do what we do. And as a head coach, at least at that level, I know there's coaches in the NFL, they only want head coaches that are play callers. In college they don't. They want you to go raise money, And so it's refreshing to get back to all about the ball. That's what you do in the NFL, and to be in a place at Green Bay with Matt and all the coaches, really, that was a enlightening year for me. Even though I was there till 1 a.m, I was the grunt guy. I'd get somebody coffee if they needed it. They didn't make me do it, but I would have. And so it was a lot of fun. And then coming here, being able to be a football coach and be around these guys and introduce something brand new that they've never heard of or seen, and watch the way they've worked at it. I'm glad they've had a little bit of success, not even close to what we need to be, but it's been a great journey, and learning a lot about what makes me happy and what makes me feel fulfilled and have better relationships, and so it's been a journey, but it's been fun.
Tyler Tachman with the Des Moines Register. I'm just curious, your evaluation of the passing game at this point. I know there's been rotating pieces, and you hit the long one to Jacob, but it seems like there's just been kind of flashes of the long ball. What's your take on where the passing game is at this point?
I don't want to use the wrong word. Not up to par, right? I would like to use the word terrible, because we have a long way to go. It's the hardest thing to get going. There's been some games that we're averaging 7 yards a carry on the ground, and we have a lead, and as much as I want to throw it, it's not smart for the team for me to throw it. But we have to get to the point where we need to throw the ball to win. It's going to happen, right? And we've shown flashes in practice, and it's getting better. As soon as I start thinking we're good, then another quarterback comes in, and then obviously Jackson went in, and so we have a long way to go. So that's the fun part, is we have tons to work on, right? And we've been running the ball efficiently, which has been helping our movements and our play passes a little bit as of late. But we have a long way to go. It's not something that you just go overnight can figure out. And we're really young and wide out, and they're all getting better, which is kind of fun to see. And then Reese went down, and then Luke went down, and it was just like there hasn't been enough rhythm. But I'm excited. I'm encouraged about where we're going, but we're nowhere near where we need to be. I think we're doing a pretty efficient job running it, which is great. It's helping us get points on the board, which is our primary job. But we got to be able to do it always, any way you want to, and that's what we have to build and get to as we go.
Last question, Chad.
Hey, Chad Leistico again. You just talked about a passing game that's not at the par, but you guys are actually on pace for potentially a school record in yards per carry for a season.
Yeah.
How have you been able to execute that from your eyes? Obviously, we know about the offensive line, we know about Caleb Johnson, but what has led to
I was going to
all
lead with those two.
Yeah, okay.
To be honest with you.
Well,
yeah.
But something has led to all this. It's not just, so what do you see?
I do believe that, and I have told Caleb this 100 times, I've told the offensive line this 100 times, I've told the tight ends, our wide receivers are blocking. Mm-hmm. It's an impressive thing to see, and it's hard, and I don't know if that was done, or I don't know the formations were in the past, but it's a huge part of this offense, and a huge part I know is the biggest headache for a lot of teams that are trying to run this system is they just can't. When you look at the Rams, Cooper Kupp, Puka, they block now. Yeah. They'll hit you, and our guys have done such an unbelievable job at being involved. We got 9 guys blocking, and it's shoot, our quarterback. We have 10 sometimes. The quarterback can't run block, right? Yeah. So it's really just the all-in mentality of the group. Are we executing? No, not to the level we need to in some of the phases of the offense right now. We don't even, we've gotten away from some of the empty stuff. And we're trying to figure out this team as we go through and give us the best chance of winning every single game. But man, the schemes have helped. Having Sully run around a little bit has definitely lightened the load a little bit. But man, those receivers, I mean, when Caleb gets through the first line and all of a sudden we crack on a safety and then the corner's got to crack replace and it's too late because my man 2 is gone, and so the explosiveness of because you have to be explosive on offense. Now I'd love to be explosive in both, but we've been explosive running the ball, and that's which is really hard to do, but it's what we do right now, and we'll continue to expand. And you always work on your weaknesses. Just make sure your strengths are always going to be your strengths, and work on your weaknesses. And but those guys really, I think they've done an unbelievable job. We also, the shifts and motions have helped. We put them in positions where hopefully we can slow up linebacker play a little bit. I don't think we did a great job of that this weekend. I don't think I did a great job of that this weekend. Just slow down their linebacker play a little bit. But the shifts and motions have helped. But those guys getting involved, I know we ran a lot of 13 last year and we're running 12 and 11, but we're blocking it just like we're at 13. I mean, those guys are in there, and that's why on a quick play fake, Jacob Gill ran right by everybody and right down the middle of the field because he's willing to go in there and throw his body on the line on the run game. And I wish we had more of those, and they blocked hard enough to earn some more of those, and I need to call them at the right time, But those guys I really think have been a key to the explosiveness we've been able to have in the run game.
Good.